What if I told you that you can finally play Enhancement Shaman without needing a degree, add-ons, or a spec guide? But wait, what if I also told you that Enhancement still has some skill expression, cool, rotational moments, and DPS optimization where you can work towards being rewarded for being a better player? Midnight Enhance is looking like a banger, and currently Shaman is presenting itself as a certified winner, with Enhance being almost perfect. This video is sponsored by our Patreons. Patreon.com/Marcelian&Flame. If you want to join the Midnight Gang, get a dope 4K wallpaper with your main transmog and help make our videos possible. Thank you. First, the pruning. Feral Spirits is gone as a button you press and now has been made into a passive. Your Sundering spawns a wolf, and your Doom Winds spawn a wolf as well. Each wolf gives you 5% physical damage increase and 5% of their associated elemental damage gain. One of the main issues with Feral Spirits on live, particularly with Stormbringer, was that you could keep spawning them and they kept multiplying your damage bonus to the point where you had to track them, among other auras, and figure out when the right time to blast was. That sounds cool, but also involved a lot of add-ons and theory-crafted knowledge that most people just wouldn't have access to, making the spec unapproachable. A bit of bloat has been addressed as well, although the word bloat is debatable. Lava Burst is no longer an option for enhancement, which I actually do agree with. It was always an elemental ability, and our finishers being castable spells is already enough casting for me as a melee DPS. Because of that, Elemental Blast has also been taken away. Although a cool one-hit wonder blast, it provided you with stat buffs on top of all else, which constructs a problem with modern WoW that a lot of class pruning has addressed. That problem is a lot of buffs or auras that increase the damage of your spec or certain abilities too much, to the point where without these auras, the tooltip of your spell shows a super sorry, lazy, tiny number that makes no sense, since in reality it does dozens of times more damage. Without these auras, we can have more damage baked into our base spells, making them feel better to press all around and not needing us to have a bunch of add-ons to tell us when these buffs are active so that we can do some damage. The spec is also seeing an identity shift when it comes to your talents and cooldowns. Crash Lightning takes center stage and will be a core ability in your kit no matter what. Its position on the talent tree also signals this, together with the Apex talents, which we will go over in the playstyle section. The other major change is Doom Winds, which is also central in the talent tree. It now increases your Wind Fury chance by 100% instead of 200%, but buffs it by 20% instead of 10%. The main change is that once you talent into Ascendance, it will replace your Doom Winds on your bars, making these two abilities merge. Ascendance will do its thing regardless, but when it's not active, you have a chance to proc Doom Winds. The last thing changed is Voltaic Blaze, taking a larger role in your playstyle, likely making it an auto pick in every build due to its positioning. Part of the pruning is that Fire Nova was baked into its effect as well as an extra talent, and it can proc with a 30% chance when you use Voltaic Blaze. The other great change that can easily fly under the radar are the talents Raging Maelstrom and Overflowing Maelstrom. Raging Maelstrom makes your heals get the benefit of the recently consumed Maelstrom Weapon stacks, aka the cast time reduction and increased healing, without actually consuming Maelstrom Weapon themselves. Although healing still costs a global cast to do, it will not eat up your actual damage anymore. And with the Overflowing Maelstrom talent, you can scale this up to 10 stacks of Maelstrom Weapon for even more healing. Back to our cooldowns, Primordial Wave is gonzo, and its effect was baked into Sundering. Now, if you talent down in the right path, you will get a 15% haste buff when casting Sundering on top of 5 Maelstrom Weapon stacks. While with the capstone transforming Sundering into Primordial Storm after you cast it initially, for the same effect as on live at the moment. The mirrored version of Sundering on the left-hand side of the talent tree is Ride the Lightning. Formerly a PvP talent, now it will make your Storm Strike and Lava Lash launch, a regular old chain lightning. This one does not consume Maelstrom Weapon stacks, and its overall synergies with chain lightning effects are not all intuitive. Two big things it does though have to do with Stormbringer, where one, it spreads lightning rod on your targets, and two, it consumes the free empowered chain lightning from arc discharge, preventing the need to cast a tempest and then a chain lightning after it. Instead, it will let you consume these with just storm strikes and lava lashes. This makes the rotation simpler, but can also contribute to downtime. More on this later. Another significant change you might want to be aware of has to do with the new Ashen Catalyst that makes sense when you take in the new talent Elemental Tempo as well. Ashen Catalyst now wants you to cast Lava Lash on targets with Flame Shock on, which is a great change to incentivize new players to play correctly, while Elemental Tempo comes in to add the extra cooldown reduction to it when you get to the Hot Hands rotational window of spamming Lava Lashes. Tempo also wants players to play correctly and not overcapping Maelstrom Weapon stacks. These types of talents indirectly are teaching people how to play correctly instead of making it a bit abstract and hidden between the procs. And the last talents I want to talk about have to do with the bottom left side of the talent tree. First, Static Accumulation, which is in the middle, has been broken into two talents. The actual two-pointer node makes your Ascendance and Doom Winds generate Maelstrom Weapons stacks per point invested. Its other effect has been made a capstone with Thunder Capacitor and made stronger as well, with your finishers having a 20% chance to refund the Maelstrom Weapon they just consumed. The last talent is the one actually going into this capstone, called Lightning Strikes, which I believe we had in the past. It states that consuming 10 Maelstrom Weapon stacks increases the damage of your Storm Strike and Lava Lash and makes them generate Maelstrom Weapon stacks, guaranteed. Now, the effect seems to only work when you consume exactly 10 Maelstrom Weapon stacks and not every 10 stacks you eventually consume. This means that you never want to cast Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning with anything less than 10 Maelstrom Weapon stacks. A significant rotational indicator that synergizes well with the playstyle, but also creates two possible issues. One would be downtime, since you end up in situations with like 6 to 9 Maelstrom Weapon stacks and all of your rotational abilities on cooldown, you might not have anything to press, because that would be a time when you could launch a finisher in the absence of a button to press. But now you just have to hold on to it. The second issue would be over-generating weapon stacks, a less likely situation to happen, a less intuitive issue, and not something that promotes healthy rotational habits. I mentioned downtime, and that is a reality you will have at least while leveling with less gear, less haste, fewer general procs, and so on. This has been an issue that Enhancement has been plagued with for quite a while on multiple occasions in the past, but with most of them eventually being fixed by the devs. For now, let's take this opportunity and talk about how the hero talents and Apex talents change how you play. Stormbringer is the simpler one to address and the simpler hero talent to play once again. Tempest now activates on a 2% chance per Maelstrom Weapon stack consumed, rather than deterministically every 40 stacks, which is the live version currently. Awakening Storm adds another RNG layer for this with Storm Strike. Although the RNG version of these reduces the need to have an add-on track when the next Tempest is due, it can be a risky situation where the RNG being unfavorable creates big swings in your DPS performance, something Enhancement isn't a stranger to. We will see how it evolves at max level with good gear. I already mentioned Arc Discharge functioning the same as on live servers with a 20% bonus damage instead of a 40%, different from how the new Elemental Arc Discharge works. Rolling Thunder, however, makes Doom Winds spawn an additional wolf that lasts 12 seconds instead of 8. It seems a bit random, but sure. If you play Ascendance, it means that you don't have control over your Doom Winds, and it can proc whenever, meaning it will be feeding once again to the RNG DPS swings that you can have. The three new talents are mostly damage buffs you won't notice outside Descending Skies that gives Ascendance a buff to give you an instant Tempest. This is a good option to reduce some of the RNG bad feeling that you have and juices up your Ascendance into a more impactful cooldown. Speaking of, it really didn't feel great playing Ascendance with Totemic. This doesn't help that the Oversurge talent still buffs you during Ascendance, which you can skip of course, but it is there. And I think this talent needs to change so that people are not incentivized or rewarded for playing Ascendance with the current Totemic design, which isn't that different from the live servers. Your whirling elements still make your Lava Lash activate hot hands, which means you want to spend every second global ability on Lava Lash, making Wind Strike weird or useless, so what's the point of Ascendance? Unless I'm misunderstanding something here, in which case it's just not intuitive then. The new talent also don't help when Totemic momentum makes it even clearer you want hot hands to be one of your main damage windows for the spec and the hero talents. I mean, Ashen Catalyst also makes your first Lava Lash after putting your totem down cast again at 150% effectiveness. Ascendance becomes problematic with Apex talents as well. The Apex talents are actually really dope. Storm Unleashed makes Crash Lightning castable again and its effects stack. This ends up in quite a bit of damage that you want to resolve real quick, making you want to cast it even during Ascendance, while remembering that this is kind of like a melee ability. At least that's what the design of it tells us. Whether or not it is a DPS gain will remain to be seen when the math is done. But that means, once again, people who don't watch enhancement video guides or written guides or sim their character will never know this. This last point of your Apex talent also doubles down on the value of Crash Lightning and makes you really want to cast it the second it becomes available. Crash Lightning is really dope. The visuals and audible effects are dope. So it might just mean that Ascendance needs either another pass at its design to adjust for these new toys that Enhancement gets, or maybe get an alternative choice node that works with both Crash Lightning and Lava Lash gameplay. Although kind of lame, the quickest solution is to transform Lava Lash into Wind Strike and have Wind Strike use both Storm Strike and Lava Lash effects. But that kind of sounds like it would be broken, so I'm not sure that was a good idea. We like to talk about builds not because this is how the spec should be played or how you should play it, but because it points out how good the design is if you can intuitively get the talents that make sense for what you want to do. And the new enhancement definitely makes it easier. At least way more than in the past. The Stormbringer playstyle I went with would kind of look like this. Once again, from an intuitive point of view. I don't see any reason why I shouldn't take the Apex talents, but at the same time, I kind of don't see any reason why I cannot put those into Sundering and its capstones, and maybe Fire Nova. The flexibility is definitely there, and assuming they would be balanced enough, you can have quite a bit of playstyle variance with close to zero complexity added to either playstyle. The only really weird point is Voltaic Blaze, which I kept because it was a source of Maelstrom Weapon and downtime problem solver. Any Flame Shock synergies are extremely expensive for Stormbringer, at least at first glance. Catch me play this and all other specs in the game on twitch.tv/Marcelian&Flame. We stream almost every day and do most of the content with viewers. With Totemic, like I mentioned, it felt pretty awkward to add Ascendance to the mix, so I thought deep-rooted elements would just be a better choice. That doesn't make the Ascendance windows I sometimes get less awkward, but at least I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket every 2 minutes, with that basket having weird holes in weird places. The other logical way to solve this issue seems like moving the point from Ascendance or deep-rooted elements into Lashing Flames, which in AoE means tap targeting enemies to activate the effect. But moving a capstone point to one in the middle part of the talent tree feels very counterintuitive to how the talents are built, which usually tell the player that the most valuable points are at the very bottom. Overall, I'm really enjoying the new enhancement, and similar to Elemental, it feels like a really good mix between simple and engaging, and not every spec can enjoy this criticism. I have to say that I am a bit sad that wolves are gone as an identity of the spec and just relegated to a passive DPS boost that just happens to have a visual of a dog next to you. Other than this in Ascendance, I can confidently say enhancement is almost perfect. And if you want to know why Shaman as a whole is a real W class in Midnight, check out our Elemental video. If anything, Elemental Shaman seems to have fewer problems of identity and synergy as opposed to enhancement, so take a gander, look, see for yourself.